All right, Drake Riggs here with RT Sport, standing next to Katlyn Chookagian. I pronounced that correctly, right? All right, great, awesome. She fights Jennifer Maia, UFC 244. Of course, that's why we're here. Katlyn, is this special for you to be fighting in MSG because you were the first fighter to walk out and compete in the UFC in MSG? So, does that add anything to this moment for you, or is it just business as usual?
Definitely like business as usual. The whole fight week and that stuff has been a little bit better when it's here. You know, I train with my gyms. We walked to my gym yesterday morning to get my workout there, and all my teammates are there, so it doesn't feel like, oh, we're stuck in a hotel, that anxiety, and you're around other fighters, and you get that like nervous energy from them. Like I was just around my teammates that are just like, hey, what's up? It's Tuesday, we're training, like, you know, so that's like really special for me. That's been making everything a lot more comfortable than I thought. I never thought that I was like uncomfortable during fight week, but having them around and it's just everything's like more relaxed. It's fun. It's easygoing, and but still obviously still focused on what we're doing.
And you know, facing Jennifer Maia, one of the best flyweights of all time, really. You know, former Invicta champion, was once considered, you know, the #1 flyweight in the world, and still up there, obviously. So have you been familiar with her career and, you know, kind of followed it a bit? And what do you think about, you know, her?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been at flyweight and super into like women's MMA because that's what I do. I've known Jennifer Maia for a long time. When I was an amateur, she was the #1 girl. She was the champ. And I think a lot of people that don't follow women's MMA aren't aware of that. So they're kind of like, oh, you know, because she's only had 3 fights, but her 3 fights were against top girls. A lot of people kind of, I think, underestimate her just because they don't really know her that well. But if you follow, like you said, if you follow women's MMA, like, you know that she's legit and she's been around for a long time. But yeah, so I'm excited to fight her, even if like other people kind of are like, who is that? I'm like, no, she's really good. If you look up her resume, like, she's legit, you know. So I know that, and the UFC knows that. So that's why I'm excited for this fight.
Definitely. Cannot wait for this one. One of my sleeper fights. Not just saying that because I'm talking to you. And because of the spot that you guys are in, you know, both highly ranked, you think that it's safe to say winner will get a title shot here? I mean, not to think too far ahead, of course. Obviously tough opponent, but I mean, that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, she's #4, I'm #1, so I would think that if I get it, then I get that. We'll see. You know, I was hoping, you know, before, but we're here today, so I would think that winner of this fight gets the next title shot, but you never know.
Yeah, exactly. You never know. And you know, you fought a lot of great fighters in your time, beaten most of them, obviously. Is there anyone you would compare Maia to specifically, or anyone like that?
I don't know. I guess I never really thought about that. She just kind of, I kind of think that most people that fight me will have the same game plan, to just be super aggressive, and I think that most people think that I'm a striker, so they're going to try to take me down, which is, you know, great because I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. You know, I'm probably like more comfortable on the ground than standing, just because I haven't done that in my UFC fights. I think that people underestimate my ground game, but you know, I think that that's just kind of going to be the game plan against me. I know what it is, and you know, but that's everyone's game plan against me, but it doesn't always work. You know, people will try to pressure me, and then they have trouble keeping up with my movement and my footwork, and they're just a little bit behind me. They're really aggressive, but they're not smart. And I think that that's where I always kind of, you know, elevate against the other opponents.
Well, you know, you just said it yourself. People usually would consider you a striker. You know, that's mostly what we see from you, the usual game plan. But because of that, and you just said you think you're better on the ground, which, you know, people can be like, whoa, what? You know, do you ever hope to, you know, kind of show off the ground game more? Because it doesn't usually go that way because you beat them on the feet anyways. But is that ever the game plan? Like, you know what, I'm going to take it down this time and get a submission.
Yeah, you know, I love jiu-jitsu. It's like one of my favorite things. And, you know, I train at Renzo Gracie with the best people in the world. You know, I train under John Danaher with Gordon Ryan, Gary Tonin, and Nikki Ryan. And, like, I love it so much. So I'm always kind of like, damn, I do this every day. I want to be able to show this. But once you get in there, like, I feel comfortable. If I feel comfortable with the striking, I'm going to stick with the striking. You know what I mean? All that matters is winning, so I can't be like, oh, I want to show off my jiu-jitsu and just do that. If I'm doing good with the striking, I'm going to stick with that. So we kind of just play it by ear, see how I feel in the cage.
Of course, makes sense. And, speaking of your striking still, I think that, this is my opinion, you are one of the toughest matchups for Valentina just because, the way you move. No one really fights like you, just to be honest, with your striking and your movement and all that. So I think it matches up well against her. So how do you think? Do you agree with that assessment? Or, just what do you think about a potential matchup with Valentina, essentially?
Yeah, I think that my style matches up really well with her, and we haven't seen that. The only, I guess you could say, like, my style is similar, striking style might be similar to Johanna, like, with the high volume striking, but I'm bigger, and I definitely have more jiu-jitsu and wrestling experience just with that, and I have more of like a boxing element with head movement and stuff. So I feel like you can kind of like see how she did, that there was more action going on with that fight, but Johanna's also smaller. She's a 115, you know what I mean? So I think that my style is a tricky style to beat. It frustrates people, and I think that that's my big advantage for that fight.
Yeah, for sure. And last thing I'll leave you with here, big story for UFC 244 is obviously the main event, the BMF title, Nate Diaz, Jorge Masvidal. I'm just curious what you think about the concept of the BMF title. A very unique thing. Just what do you think about, that whole concept?
I guess it's interesting. I don't know. I feel like for the fighters, they're like, yeah, whatever. As long as you bring more people to the fight that we're going to be at. I think that's more, definitely more for the fans. Like, I don't think any fighters like, man, I'm jealous. I wish I could get that fight. I think they're more like, I wish I could get paid for that fight. Yeah. But the title, I'm like, it's just, I think it's more for the fans. Like, but yeah, it's cool. If it brings more people to the event, I'm down for it.
What would you think of a female BMF title?
I think they should do one. That would be good. Yeah, why not? Yeah.
All right. Awesome, Katlyn. Thanks so much. Best of luck. Can't wait for the fight.
Thank you.